Today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical future, a future where the whole idea of countries just dissolves. And that forces us to ask a really profound question. What happens to our most basic human rights when the nations that guarantee them are gone? Let's get into it.
I mean, really think about that for a second. Your passport, your legal identity, pretty much all of your rights, they're tied to a country. So what happens if that entire foundation just crumbles? Now, this isn't just some late-night philosophical question. It's a very real, very practical problem that's being forced on us by the insanely fast evolution of artificial intelligence.
You see, the road to this future is kind of mapped out in three big stages. Right now, we're living in the age of ANI, or artificial narrow intelligence. Think of all the generative AI tools we're playing with today. The next stop, sometime around 2030, is AGI, which is AI with human-like smarts. But the real game changer, the one that changes everything, is set to arrive around 2040, ASI, or artificial superintelligence. We're talking about an intellect so powerful it will totally reshape civilization as we know it. And that, right there, is where our story really begins.
Okay, so first up, when nations dissolve, and this is the big question, right? Why on earth would a superintelligent AI lead to the end of countries? Well, the core idea is that the very reasons we even have countries, to manage stuff, keep us safe, and organize society, are about to be completely transformed.
Just imagine an ASI that can manage global supply chains, energy grids, and resource distribution with a level of efficiency that human governments couldn't even dream of. In a world like that, a line on a map starts to look pretty random and inefficient, doesn't it? The whole logic of having a nation-state just kind of falls apart.
And this slide really nails the shift in what's called the social contract. For centuries, the deal has been simple. We pay taxes and give our loyalty to a government, and in return, we get protection and services. But what happens when an AI can provide universal access to things like energy, food, and healthcare for everyone? That old deal is off the table. It's time to write a new one.
So, if the old system is gone, what takes its place? Well, the answer seems to be a brand new legal framework, one that's built on three foundational pillars, designed specifically for a world without borders.
These three pillars are universal citizenship, digital sovereignty, and multi-layered governance. Together, they completely redefine who we are and what rights we have in this age of ASI. So let's break each one down.
First up, universal citizenship. This is a huge idea. It means your basic rights are no longer handed to you by the country you happen to be born in. Instead, they're just part of being human, and they're guaranteed by a new system of global public goods that are managed by the ASI.
And this is where it gets really practical. Your passport gets replaced by a decentralized ID, a DID, which is secured with stuff like biometrics and blockchain. You can think of it like a universal key that proves you're you, no matter where you are on the planet. And this system also completely changes how we think about welfare. Instead of relying on a government, you get a direct entitlement to universal basic services, the essentials like energy, food, and information you need to live.
All right, let's move on to our second pillar, digital sovereignty. In a world powered by ASI, your most valuable asset isn't going to be property or money. Nope. It's going to be your data, your digital twin, and even your own thought patterns. This pillar says that you, and only you, have absolute ownership over your digital self.
And this leads to two incredible new legal ideas. First, something called data habeas corpus. It's a really powerful principle that basically means you can demand that your data be deleted or that its use be stopped anytime. The AI might manage the system, but it never, ever owns your data. Second is cognitive liberty, and this one is huge. It's the right to protect your actual thoughts from being monitored or messed with. That's a critical defense in an age of super advanced technology.
Our final pillar is multi-layered governance. This answers the question, if you're not a citizen of a country, what are you a citizen of? And the answer is, well, lots of things at once. You'd belong to communities based on your purpose and your values, not your physical location. These groups could be organized as DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations, which are basically online communities with shared goals and their own rules.
So the crucial point here is the shift from territorial jurisdiction to functional jurisdiction. Right now, the law that applies to you depends on where you are physically located. But in this future, if you're doing scientific research, you'd follow the rules of the Science DAO. If you're making art, you might follow the rules of a creative guild. The law follows what you're doing, not where you're doing it.
And this table just brings it all together so perfectly. The whole unit of rights shifts from a national citizen to a global citizen. Your ID goes from a passport to a decentralized ID. Sovereignty stops being about territory and starts being about your data and your identity. And just look at those last two rows. This is wild. Law enforcement shifts from state power to automated smart contracts, which are basically self-enforcing digital agreements. And disputes, they're not resolved in a traditional court, but through automated arbitration inside those DAOs. It is a complete and total rewrite of our legal DNA.
Of course, getting from here to there, it's not going to be simple. There's going to be a messy, complicated transition period, a kind of legal gray zone where the old world and the new one are going to clash.
During this phase, we'll probably see a two-tiered system of justice running at the same time, where some problems fall under the old laws and other things are handled by the new global rules. So, what would that actually look like day to day?
Well, a physical crime, say an assault, would probably still be handled by whatever local laws are left. But a dispute over digital property or who gets to access certain data, that would be resolved by the ASI's global automated system. You'd basically be living with a foot in two different legal worlds at the same time.
This transfer of power isn't going to happen overnight. It'll be a slow, gradual handover. First, nations might give up control of data management to a common ASI platform. Then, maybe critical infrastructure, like energy grids. And with each step, that national citizenship becomes more and more symbolic, while the rights of a global citizen become the real, practical reality of your daily life.
So where is this all going? What's the ultimate destination of this journey? Well, it's a fundamental change in the entire philosophy of law itself, a shift away from rules based on power and enforcement and towards a system based on logic and, well, harmony.
At its very heart, this whole thing is a move away from the inequalities that are created by the accident of birth, where you happen to be born. That gets replaced by a system of calculated fairness, where your rights and your resources are distributed based on logic and universal principles, all overseen by superintelligence.
This isn't just a legal update. It's a completely new paradigm. As the source material puts it, it's a civilizational transition from the rule of law to the harmony of intelligence. Law stops being a set of commands that have to be enforced, and it becomes more like a code for the most optimal, harmonious way for us all to coexist.
And all of this brings us to one final, really personal question. When your identity is no longer tied to a nation, but to the communities you choose to join and the data you create, the power to define yourself rests completely with you. So in this new world that's coming, how will you choose to be known?